Welcome, people of the World Wide Web. So it is Cypher Sigma screen time here, and it is episode 2. Yes, 2. This is being recorded before the first one came out because I'm not so far in advance. So hopefully the new series has been received well. If you are watching this, I do appreciate it. I appreciate you all if you watched any of the 100 episodes of the last series. So yes, so this is the new series, Back to the Watchlist. This is where I go over the past 2 weeks of anything I'd watched. So whether it be, as per usual, physical media, as we have quite a lot here, as you can see, and obviously online stuff. I will try to go through it back in the method and the order I watched it, but I can't remember. So first off is we have the Muppets. So this is not a normal Muppets movie. This is a documentary that was on my rack in 10 that I'd had for like a year, 2 years. I'd bought this. And it is basically an hour and 40-minute documentary about Jim Henson, about his life, and about how the Muppets came about, and Sesame Street and all this stuff and intricacies. It's great to see where it come from. A lot of stuff I didn't know. I love puppetry and animation and stuff like this. So this was right up my street, and just to see a lot of cast members being featured in it and how they talk and got on, and behind the scenes to some of the funny stuff that maybe isn't kid friendly, and just, you know, and how they got on and did everything. It was really edited and put together really well. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So then we go on ER. So we have the 9th series of ER. Obviously some quite dramatic changes. Obviously someone losing his arm in this one. Really enjoying this series. Obviously when we're watching this, me and my wife are really intrigued in watching The Pit. You can't watch it over here as of yet, so we're hoping that will come over soon to one of the streaming sites. We get to watch this. Obviously, there is bits of the Congo. My wife isn't the biggest fan of that. Obviously, real life events, it does bring quite harsh realities of stuff that does go on, and some people. My wife is a very sensitive soul, and she doesn't necessarily want to. So she didn't watch much of those episodes, but I kind of watched it because I remember it. Obviously, big fan of this back in the day. Glad getting through it. Obviously, I had to buy a second copy to replace one of the discs. Still, obviously, with this one, I have 4 copies of this now. Still missing one of the discs on this one that doesn't play, disc 3, side A. So be aware, these are a pain in the ass if you're not buying them. Whether it's the double-sided disc or not, we shall find out. So next off, it's been quite. So this is Ocean's 12. So we watched Ocean's 11's, really enjoyed it. Really loved the plots and the little like twists and turns that happened in it. Obviously, I said some of it when you know, pardon me, when what's going to happen, and then you see like Brad Pitt's voice and stuff like that, and you can pick up that is quite obvious. Now this one went in, it still has the caper but goes in a very different direction. It is shot very artsy, and I really didn't like this. Like it was trying to be too much of an artsy movie, and how they shot it and how the stuff directed, the music and that just takes away the actual story. And I think one was so strong with its story and the twists and turns that when you take a, say, plot device that these movies essentially have, and then you try and do a lot of other stuff, when you take away from the strongest point of it, you have to either do it really well, which this doesn't do in my eyes. Maybe you know, people who like this sort of movie, but yeah, I was so very disappointed. Obviously, the only funny bit is obviously when they bring Julia Roberts in to play kind of Julia Roberts, and you meet some of the few famous. I thought that was quite funny. But there we go. So next up is the complete season 3 of Doctor Who. So this is what Matt and AJ have got. So I'm on the last series now that they've got me. I don't think I will go much past there. So this is the 2nd season. Obviously Rose isn't there, and this is more about this character here, Martha, which I always, every time you think of Martha, I always think of the Batman and Superman stories. But I actually really like her. I think as a companion, that's what I think you call them, is I think I prefer her the most out of it. Obviously season 4 we do have the actress who plays Nan and stuff like this, but I think I liked Martha. I like the fact she was a doctor and stuff like this. I still find it a bit weird that the companions are more or less kind of almost love interest and not in love interest, and all this a bit weird. That I still find is a little weird. It's kind of almost Stockholm syndrome. And let's just I've got that label to take off because that's doing my nutting. But yeah, but still enjoy it. As I say, enjoyed the space ones. I like the fact they linked a lot of stuff back to previous editions and stuff. So yeah, so a Doctor Who. Next up, we have like I keep dropping, the critically panned Speed 2. So this is one I picked up recently. If you remember, I didn't have it in the collection. I remember watching it, always remember about saving the dog. Being more I've watched it, actually all the way through, we quite enjoyed this movie. I get it, the director has had, there have been a lot of stuff around the whole, Sandra Bullock only did it for the money, Keanu Reeves wouldn't do it for a script. A lot, the main guy, Jason, he did it on the basis that a script would be changed, and then when he turned up on set, it hadn't been, and he was basically forced into it. It is very absurd, it is very out there, but it's a fun, like, hour and 40 minutes, is it? Or a 2 hour, well, you can just turn your brain off and just enjoy action movie. And obviously, it's interesting to know that this film, I think, 120 million to make, and the cost to do the boat scene at the end was more than the first whole Speed movie in one go. But I still enjoy it. I'm glad to have it in the collection. I do like classic 90s actions. So then we'll get on to some of the online stuff. So on my Rack in 10, I did have Smile 2. So I watched Smile 1, was not impressed. The scene where the lady is in the car, her friend or sister walks up and then flopped on. That was the only kind of bit that intrigued me. When I saw the creature, I was a bit like, Now this one goes down a different route. It does follow the world. It follows the curse being followed across. The main lady, who is from Aladdin stuff and Power Rangers movie, I think she did amazingly in this job. There was one scene where she's kind of been haunted in her room, and you have all her breakdown dancers coming along. That was done really, really well. And there was some stuff with the dancing where she did. I thought that she's obviously quite talented, obviously done a lot for this. But just the whole plot and stuff, and if anybody has seen this, essentially you have this kind of demon ghostly presence which is terrorizing her. But in this film, they focus a lot more on that it can kind of twist reality, or kind of twist a person's mind to believe what is happening is on reality. So for like most of the movie, you're like, is this happening? Is it not happening? And you have to wait for the kind of scene to finish and then go, oh, it isn't happening. And yeah, it's all right when she's done it once or twice, but after about the third or fourth time, I'm like, I'm fed up of watching something that may not have even happened, that part of me doesn't even find scary. And I just, yeah, as I say, not to take away from the main actress and a few clever things in it, and I really wish, like the dancing side of things, they probably could have done like a bit of a Black Swan and gone more down that avenue. But yeah, I'm glad I watched it. I don't know the first movie. I'm not going to pick up the second movie. There is that. So then we go back to another movie. So Popstar, this is one I picked up recently, and watched it. And again, this I kind of feel is maybe like the South Park, and there's a few the South Park movie and the Team America I want to go back and revisit. That I find very much this. If I was watching this at the kind of the level when I got into the Lonely Islands, I probably would really, really love this movie. But I found it. No, the songs were kind of enjoyable, but this plot overall and the actors and stuff like this, I just was a bit like, nah, it's okay. I do really like Andy Samberg. I think he's a talented person. Obviously, his Lonely Islands, they have this gimmick, and obviously Michael Bolton and stuff from their songs feature in this for obvious reasons. But yeah, it didn't deserve the praise I think it has got. That it has got a cult classic, unless you're into that sort of thing. But I'm all right to have it. Glad I watched it. I probably would give it a revisit, but I think it'll be a while for it to go. So next up, so this is going to be one that AJ and Matt will love. So Matt watched it ages ago on Apple TV, recommended it to AJ and me. I didn't have Apple TV. I managed to get a 2-month subscription. I paid for a 2-month subscription, got a deal. So essentially, I went back to watch this one program, and it is this movie, The Gorge. So it's Miles Teller from Whiplash and Princess Peach, what's her name? Anna Taylor-Johnson, as agents for America and like Russia, and they basically protect this gorge. And inside this gorge are these creatures that they try and stop out. They both have are recruited for like a year kind of term. but then they kind of form this relationship and then they all havoc goes loose. I actually really, really enjoyed this movie. The creatures kind of remind me a little bit of Pirates of the Caribbean 2, if you know David Jones's people. It was kind of a little bit obvious as stuff was going on when they go into the gorge. But I found this film worked well. It's very something different that hasn't kind of been out there, except for the fact to say the creatures kind of look a little bit like Pirates of the Caribbean 2. And when there's all this kind of webbing and stuff, it reminds me of a CG version of the Mario Brothers with Toad, if anybody remembers that movie. But I liked really good. They kind of split this movie. The first more or less hour is them getting to know the two characters and them intertwining. And I thought that worked really well. For me, that made you relate more to these two characters as they were the focus, as it is kind of a short cast. There isn't too many people outside of this. When the story develops, obviously you have Sigourney Weaver and stuff like this in it, and that like it does take a turn. There are some CG scenes that I feel were kind of like when they're in the open land, like because they kind of you spend an hour getting to learn them, and then they're in the gorge, and then they navigate the gorge and go for it very quickly. I think that's because they spent more time trying to connect with the characters before than fleshing out the plot a little bit more, having more of it in the gorge, and it costing more money in CG and stuff like this. So they compromise, and I think maybe given a far bigger budget, this could have been an absolutely amazing film, even if it was released at the cinema. But I think the director did the best for what he did, and I think it's a really good movie. I don't think it has a physical copy release, but I would probably look out to get one because I did quite enjoy it. I like the chemistry between Teller and Taylor. So there is that. So next up is one that my wife actually. So a DVD box set that I have in the collection. It was 2.4 Children. So my wife really, really loved this back in the day. She wanted to get it and managed to pick this up, I think, for about 20 quid on Vinted, which is a massive, massive bargain. Now, they only released the first 3 seasons. I think there's 8 or 9 before, obviously, the character who plays Ben passed away, unfortunately. So we watched all of them, really, really enjoyed them. Unfortunately, due to my error, we watched season 2 first. We were kind of season 2, well, I've got it in the order there. Season 2, season 1, season 3, because I'm an idiot. And obviously not realising that the daughter is different until season 3. And then I think she's written out of the last one. But I actually really enjoyed it. It takes a little while to get used to, but it's very funny. You know, it reminds me, not as good as Only Fools and Horses, but I do remember watching a bit of this. I really wish there was more of it. And unfortunately, the only place to watch it is iPlayer, and I don't have a TV license, so I don't get to see it. We've watched the first episode of season 4 around the mother-in-laws because they have a TV license and we can watch it there. So we will watch it from time to time. Maybe somewhere in the world there is some foreign versions of the other series. I'll have to invest in that and take a look. But really enjoyable series, really reminds you of your childhood and how dated sometimes stuff is, but still really, really fun. Really, really silly. So next we go back to some lines. So we have a series called Blackwork. So this is the lady from 2 packets of lager and a pint of crisps. No, 2 pints of lager and a packet. Yeah, 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps. I can't remember what her name is, so apologies. Essentially, she is a police officer. Starts off with a partner, her husband. He gets killed. You find out he's kind of been leading a double life, and then she kind of delves into it. It was a limited miniseries. It's on Netflix. There's like 3 episodes, and it was all right as things go. I thought some of the actors and some similar stuff was done good, but it kind of, it's enjoyable. It was like 2 hours to watch it all. I said it, but by the end of it, you got this big police force. This cop has gone kind of undercover, and then kind of it's all secret lies, but his wife is the only one who kind of figures it out and does everything, and it makes everybody look really incompetent from the police side of things, because it does make them absolutely useless. And for that, I was a bit like, oh my god, what, you would be sacking all these policemen, or maybe that's the best they've got, and she gets promotion. I think it was best left as it is, and that's what it was. There was no continuation. There was no plan to bring any second series. It was a standalone, but it was enjoyable for 2 hours. I say I've seen far worse movies, give or take. So then next we go to another one. So this is kind of a big one, and AJ had kind of mentioned about this. This is Daredevil Born Again. And I'm very mixed on this. I'm a massive fan of the original Netflix series. I'm a fan of the character of Daredevil. I didn't mind him at all in She-Hulk, how they portrayed him and stuff like this. I like Poindexter. I like how this series starts off. I forgot to say at the beginning of this, there will be spoilers throughout this. So obviously, if I mention any series, please just skip forward into the next picture or I show things. So yeah, so on this, so they start really well. Weatherley brought the old characters back in to link it anyway, because you forget it's been 10 years since the original Netflix series first came out. And obviously killing off Foggy, anybody who knows the comics, there was a storyline linked to that, so he's probably not dead. But I can understand that. Now, the feeling and the atmosphere and everything, because it's so quickly, does turn the set of events of this story. You can see there is some connection and trying to connect it to the Netflix series, which I'm happy for. It makes sense for them to do it. When Poindexter turn up and they're fighting in the bar, there's some bad CG at the beginning, I must admit. I was a bit like, so many scenes of Daredevil were single pan of him fighting. Why couldn't you have done that? I get it. They seem to have evolved the character a little bit where he does a lot more flips and stuff. Some of the stuff looks cool. Some of the stuff I was thinking is a bit, he's fighting Muse and that is a bit of overrated or unnecessarily, especially for a hero when would be trying to conserve energy. But it starts off, and then obviously you have the intro as well that is kind of linked to the old one where everything breaks down and then builds back up. The thing for me that then it kind of splits up, and it's Matt Murdock's life. He gets a new girlfriend kind of on the rebound from Karen, or not Karen, or seeing Karen from his partner and stuff like this. He has a court case and it's White Tiger, and that's essentially the first few episodes, plus from him meeting Kingpin and they're having like a comfortable sit down dinner. Kingpin's kind of reformed, it's not. Then you have Muse and they're all on the hunt for Muse, and Daredevil kind of comes back but he doesn't. And then it's kind of built up to the end where all hell goes loose, but then obviously the Punisher comes in, and I'm not the biggest fan of Punisher. I've only ever seen, it's the only kind of Netflix series that I never watched the first series of. I've not even seen the second series. I like the character in the comic form. I don't know. I just didn't relate to it. I feel he's very different to Matt. And at first, when the first few scenes when he's in the beard and you see him and that, I kind of thought, is he in Matt's imagination? Is this not? But then at the end, when he does all the fighting, there's blood and gore. Yeah, and I can see why AJ liked that. For me, I was just like, it kind of felt, let's just start off and link something to Netflix that just kind of put Matt Murdock in the back, and you have all these other elements going on, and I don't know. And then they tried to bring it all again and bring out Punisher to kind of bring a high to the end. And I'm glad it's getting a second series, but I really am just like, I feel from what I remember, any series in Netflix was far better than this, done far better. Maybe it's me, and apologies, I am comparing it to that. I'm not saying it is a bad series. I'm just saying a lot of the elements that I liked in the original series, when you try to then link it to, and then he goes, and I get it, it's Matt going through Reborn as like from Netflix Netflix Daredevil to DCU, Marvel MCU Daredevil. I feel there's so much, it could be used so much better. It should have been far more focused on Matt, not let's bring a vigilante in and there's more focus in, let's bring on Muse and there's more focus with him. There's bits of point, there's a bit of all the Kingpin's going through like this whole marital issue with his wife and stuff like this. And then we bring the Punisher in. I get that some of these are plot devices for the end. I just feel Matt took such a step back in most of this, whereas I feel he needed to be more involved and more focal point on him than other people, because it is his show. Even though if he was going through a bad time, I think they should have but it is what it is. That's Daredevil again. I've seen it. So next up, we have some movie sillies. This was gifted to me from AJ, as he always loves getting it mentioned. Really enjoyed this movie. Had been a long time since seeing it. There would have been hopefully a live stream that we would have done, but we haven't done, where I could get to speak about this, because I'd always said that I appreciate the first Terminator, like I appreciate the first Alien, but I always prefer the second movie. This is far the case on this, but having rewatched 1 and then obviously 2 here that I'll speak about in a minute, I saw so many more things that were done so much better in 2. The Vaseline shaving off the eyebrows and stuff like this looked a little weird. Some of Arnie's movements in the club and that aren't quite robotic as I think I would have liked him. And there's a few, you know, like I get it. This opened up the gate to the next film, and to me, I'm very happy with this. And it is a good movie. I do think there are some bits it's lacking in. Even though you even compare it to this stage, like the CG, not CG, like the special effects that they did in 1, from what they brought in 2 is far better. So here we have is Terminator 2 Judgment Day. By far my favourite, stands out as much. I would have had 1 and then 2 just above it. 1's here, 2 it excels. Not only did you take the logic of, a human and a Terminator, you then had potentially 2 Terminators. You start off not knowing who is who. Maybe it was back in the time. Obviously, I was a young teenager. I wouldn't have been old enough to see this when it first came out, 1991. No, I wasn't even. I was 9, so there's no way I would have even seen this. But how they then elevate the story and the CG and stuff, and some of the practical effects work really, really well. And having a link to the previous one worked really, really good. The music, Guns N' Roses and stuff like this worked really. James Cameron, I absolutely adore. And if you're gonna find anything on this, as I said, he has the concept of time travel down to a spot. As I say, hopefully it will be a live stream when we can talk about this. I won't get into too much, but there is that. So next we move along to the online streaming stuff again, and we have Love Again. So this is a movie I watched a few years ago. I think I did a movie review. This is the Celine Dion love chick flick film. Me and my wife were struggling. I think I found it on Amazon Prime or Netflix. I really enjoyed it. We watched it again. I still like it. I think Celine Dion is very talented. It's a shame of her lock-in syndrome that she has now, and it's a very cheesy love comedy stuff, very like P.S. I Love You because of a partner dies and stuff like this. But I really like the artwork of the butterfly, and it has a lot of elements that appeal to me, and that's what I think I like that movie. So Love Again, we watched it, I enjoyed. Next up we have is Black Mirror. So obviously there were 6 episodes of Black Mirror. Really, really good. Started off with the whole wife kind of has a brain tumor, and then she gets replaced with this kind of computer system where you have to have a subscription, and they keep up doing it. And a lot of people have compared it to Netflix and stuff. And I think it's very clever for not only them to come up with this concept, but for a service that actually facilitates this same concept, that they're the ones that produce it and release it. I think that was very clever. Then when you get into episodes like Eulogy, I thought that was very well done, of going into pictures and stuff and having the correlation in the story, and that sometimes we go through and live this memory, and when someone passes, when you look back, you realize actually there were elements you missed. And I thought that was very clever, in using the picture and stuff to go in was, very well done. Obviously there are a few, I quite like the computer one that linked to the previous episode. That I thought that was very clever, linking it in. Could see where the robot-y type things were going, and him being in prison and doing the QR code at the end. I kind of saw that come in. But still really, really enjoyed it. And then obviously the space one at the very end was a fun, like hour and a half, hour and 40 episode. Was very well done to finish everything off. And I kind of feel maybe this is Netflix, whether they run out of ideas or they wanted to close stories off, that they had stuff that was left open. But still very well done and very enjoyable. Just is very a whirlwind ride of where you're going here, there, and everywhere. So I'll go to the last one. So the last one was a series that we managed to finish called Sick Note. I'll bulk it off there. So this is Rupert Grint, which is funny enough. You have Rupert Grint, which is obviously Ron Weasley, famously known for, and then he's with Nick Frost, who will famously become the new Gandalf, the new Dumbledore from the series. This is a very weird series, so it's a very clever one that he's not very well. He has some tests. Nick Frost diagnosed him with having cancer. His whole world's kind of turned upside down, and then they make a big kind of spectacle of it. And then it turns out he hasn't got cancer, but they kind of have this lie that now they've orchestrated they can't kind of go back on. And that idea is very clever, and they execute a little bit smart in the beginning of the first series. You can kind of see what elements are there, but it just goes very weird, and it just keeps going weird and weird and weird the longer you go on it. And it is, yeah, his friend turning up in the second series, he's got this weird mask, but he's then not who he says he is and stuff. And there's all these lies and stuff like this, and it all is very strange. I can see why it only lasted 2 series. It's probably the hype of season 1 carried it on to season 2, but yeah, that was a very weird series to watch. Only 2 series. I think there's like 8 episodes and only like half an hour. So it's quite easy binge watching stuff. But anyway, we then get to the last 4. So first we have some movies I got. So we have Blackjack. So this is an anime movie. It is basically a world-renowned surgeon, even though he kind of looks like Quasimodo type. And then he is captured and basically forced into do this operation, because you have all these people around the world that kind of have superpowers or being super athletic and excelling at all the ones, and then they start to die, and it's his basically job to find out what's going on. As I say, he's forced into it, and it's kind of the morality that something has been done to them to make him super human, but then obviously when he has to then take that away because they're very, very ill and it's killing them, that some of them kind of, it's that reaction and how you would cope with that. You know, would you live but never be able to do the one thing you're great at? It is a very moral dilemma that it kind of has, as I think, an underline to this, but very enjoyable. Very much a slow pace kind of who did this and who did that, kind of a little murder mystery tied in, only like an hour and a half long. Then we go on to Knox Goes Away. So again, this was AJ who highlighted this to me, and he gave me this version of it. It's a very clever story. So Michael Keaton's character has this disease. It is a very aggressive disease. He's diagnosed very early on in the story, even though he's a hitman, and he has several weeks basically left to live, or to live as a conscious human being where he is not, I would say, more vegetable and his brain is gone. He ends up then trying to settle his affairs and help his family members out and other people around him, because stuff gets orchestrated, stuff happens, and then obviously he has this knowledge that he's losing his memory, but trying to tie everything in and that, and it very much from time to time leads you down some rabbit holes, and you're like, I'm not sure why he said that or not why she's done that. And by the end of it, it all does tie up. So the story overall works really well as a complete story. As you're going along, it is a little bit misleading and taking you around, and it is an enjoyable experience. And Michael Keaton does a good job with the people around him. I wouldn't necessarily, it's an amazing movie, but I'm glad to have it in the collection. And I say, and I do think it is quite a good watch if you enjoy that concept. I said, I think when AJ said it, there's another film with a similar kind of idea, but I can't place where it is or if I've watched it. And then we get to the final 2. So first off is we have my Mondo pickup steelbook that I picked up with AJ and Matt last time I was with them, and Scott. Really, really love this. Went back and rewatched it. It's only like an hour and 20 minutes. It's quite an easy watch of the Jungle Book. Very shorter than what the live action is, but really appreciates when you go back and see these core elements of animation from, I think, the 60s or 70s that this is from. And it is, you know, a great, great film. And I'm glad to have this lovely addition to it. It's not by far not my favorite Disney movie, but this copy has kind of awakened, and, you know, and because I like animation and stuff, as you can tell, this has awakened kind of a desire of how good some of this stuff is and how much we lose it with using CG. And then the final one, Hereditary, that I couldn't pronounce. Thank you very much for the pronunciation, Matt, that you did send me. I don't know why I couldn't think of Hereditary, and why I couldn't say it, as I'm struggling there. This has famously done the rounds. I've seen the little girl and what's happened to her. I knew that was coming. I didn't know anything else by the word hereditary. It's obviously something related into their family. And it is kind of a horror, kind of a weird film. There are some elements that work well. the dark rooms with the mum on the wall works very clever, but then when she moves around, the movement action seems a bit silly. Just how it spirals, it's very satanic and stuff like this. And again, I'm glad I've watched it and have it in the collection. It's not something I would openly go back and revisit anytime soon. Obviously, because I'm not a big horror fan, I'm trying to watch as much horror stuff and integrate it into my collection. At some point, there may be a time where I just go, you know what, 90% of the horror movies that I don't really like, I may get rid of and keep the ones I want. I say it's well rated, and that's why I watched it, and I was open to interpretation and say it was all right. Maybe with watch it with other people, you might get a better enjoyment out of it. But that has been Back to the Watch List. Hope you've enjoyed episode 2. Obviously, these are long ones, so thank you very much for sticking along and watching a half an hour video of me talking about what I've watched. Is there anything in this video you liked, didn't like, disagree? Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. You know, I always like these. If there's something people quite passionate about, maybe it's something we can incorporate in a live stream when I do the next one with Matt and AJ. Otherwise, I've been Cyber Signal Screen Time. Hope you liked the video, and I shall see you in the next one.